It's that time of year when good friends are near and you wish you could give more than just presents from a store. Why don't you give love on Christmas Day? Oh, even the man who has everything would be so happy if you would bring him love on Christmas Day. No greater gift is there than love. So people you don't know, smile and nod hello. Everywhere there's an air of Christmas joy. It's that once a year when the world seems sincere and you wish you could find a way to show the things that words can't say. Why don't you give love on Christmas Day? Oh, the man on the street and the couple upstairs all need to know there's someone who cares. Give love on Christmas Day. No greater gift is there than love. What the world needs is love. Yes, the world needs your love. Why don't you give love on Christmas Day? Every little child on Santa's knee has room for love underneath his tree. Give love on Christmas Day. No greater gift is there than love.
Welcome, everybody. How we doing? We doing good this morning? How many of you all feel it's too early to be singing Christmas music? Yeah? Well, I'm sorry I'm not in that boat with you. But anyways, it's awesome. Give it up for Lachelle and Alina one more time. Such a gift here. Well, one thing I can say is that, yeah, I'm excited about Christmas, but right now I'm more excited about Thanksgiving because it means good food and it's right around the corner, right? And so I know some of you all are feeling me there as well. But one thing that I want to celebrate is on yesterday morning at Harrington Elementary, one of our school partners, we all gathered together to deliver over 1,700 Thanksgiving baskets. And close to 400 of those baskets came right here from the Troy campus. So that's an awesome thing to celebrate. Nancy Worm, our campus director, and I were talking on yesterday, and she was telling me about the whole morning. And she had a conversation with the principal of Harrington Elementary. And the principal told her this. She said, all out of the community and the families that are in the community of Harrington Elementary, most of them, a lot of them have to make a decision on whether they're going to buy groceries for a week or whether they're going to purchase the things necessary to provide a Thanksgiving dinner. Most of them end up choosing to buy groceries for a week. So when we come together in open-handedness and with generosity and give towards things like this and show up to deliver these Thanksgiving baskets, there were over 1,700 families that received everything they need to provide a Thanksgiving meal. So let's celebrate that one more time. That's awesome. Well, like I said, Christmas is right around the corner. We're actually almost just a month away. And we gear up for Christmas here at Kensington. Like, we run really fast around here, and we love to celebrate it. So we'll be having 51 Christmas services across all of our Kensington local campuses. 11 of those will be right here at the Troy campus. And your free Christmas tickets are now available. And so you can get those on the Kensington Church app, or you can go online to kensingtonchurch.org and get your tickets there. If you're having trouble navigating the app or the website, you can also see someone at the hub, and they're more than willing to help you get those there. I suggest you get them fast. Those services fill up pretty quickly. We're gearing up. We're looking at perfect timing because we know that Jesus entered the world in a very specific way and in the perfect time. It was not by chance or happenstance how Jesus entered the world. So we're going to be looking at that this Christmas and celebrating that. Lastly, I just want to welcome everybody on stream as well. So I want you on the count of 3 to turn around and wave at the camera behind you. 1, 2, 3. Hello. Awesome. Well, today we're celebrating life change with baptisms, and we're going to be talking about gratitude as well. Andrew Kim is in the house. Give it up for our teaching pastor. Yes. But before we move on with the rest of our day, I want to invite you all to stand to your feet and greet someone next to you.
Let's have a little fun here. Yeah. I've been looking for hope, been looking for strength, been looking for someone that I can always call my friend. Guess I've been looking for you. Oh, I guess I've been looking for you.
I've been looking for peace, been looking for love, been looking for a rock that I can always lean on. Yeah, I guess I've been looking for you. Oh, guess I've been looking for you.
I was looking at them yesterday and I was thinking, I call this the circle of greatness because there's so much talent here. And I was thinking yesterday, I wonder let's give them another hand, absolutely. And I was wondering, how can I break into this circle? And I was thinking about asking Jalen if I could play the tambourine. But I haven't had the courage yet to ask him, so we'll see how that goes. But as Jalen mentioned, today it's going to be an amazing, amazing day because all of these people over here are getting baptized. Can we give them a huge hand? In addition to the baptisms, we're also talking about gratitude. And I can imagine for some of you, as you drove in, that gratitude was tested. Because, you know what I'm talking about, because it was a surprise to us that John R. and Square Lake got closed off today. And so how many of you were affected by that? And so what I want is a lot of you. And so what I want to say is thank you for persevering and thank you for getting here. And just for everyone else, that exit that goes out to John R. is closed. And out of the other two exits that lead out to Square Lake, the only option is to actually turn right and to move towards Rochester Road, just as an FYI to everyone here. But this is something that is unfortunately going to be affecting us today. So I wanted to say thank you for getting here and being a part of this. And this song that we just heard, I feel like is a perfect song for the journey that we're on today because it perfectly summarizes so many of the stories of the people, of all of you who are getting baptized. Because as I was reading your stories this week, the theme that kept on coming up over and over again was that people wrote and they said that for so long that they had been looking for purpose and meaning and love and strength and hope and peace in all of these other places, and they ultimately came up empty. But then they found Jesus. You found Jesus. And you realized that that he was the one that you had been searching for the entire time. And something that I recognize is not just your stories, but it's so many of our stories as well. And I believe that this weekend is really the perfect timing for us to really be able to celebrate this life change because, of course, this Thursday is Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving can be crazy, it can be hectic, but it's also one of the most beautiful times of the year, because it invites us to take a moment and pause and to reflect back and remember all the extraordinary things that God has done, not only in our lives, but also in the life of our community. And so, which is why, and when we actually do that, what rises up inside is this sense of gratitude, which, as I mentioned, is we're going to be talking about today. And we're also going to be talking about gratitude this coming Wednesday at midweek. And so if you have never been to a midweek, it happens on the 2nd and the 4th Wednesday of every month at 7 o'clock right here in this room. And so this Wednesday, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about gratitude. And also, we're going to have an open mic time where we're going to invite anyone to come forward and to share and express their gratitude as to what God has done in their life. And as I've been talking with people over the past several weeks, person after person has told me that this is one of their favorite midweeks of the year. And so we want to invite you to come, bring your kids, invite your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, bring your family from out of town because let's be real, what else are you going to do with them? And so this coming Wednesday, we are going to have a ton of fun. And I also should mention, we are going to have pie, which is why you're coming, right? Exactly. At least you're considering it. And so something that we also recognize is that God is always at work in our lives. And so right now, we're going to see a great example of this. We're going to see a great story of a woman named Melissa who's part of our community right here at Troy and how she encountered God in a powerful way about 1.5 years ago and her journey since then. So let's take a look at this video.
So, I'm not really a religious person. Never really have been. But I've always wanted to learn more. I would love to believe in Jesus. It's not that I flat out don't, I'm just super skeptical. Hi everyone, I'm Melissa. I'm 35 years old, a mother to 3 beautiful little girls, and a wife to an awesome guy. Welcome to my blog. Pretty open book in, most aspects of my life. So I don't know why I felt this awkwardness or almost like embarrassment to share this aspect of my life. But I feel that once I did, once I put it all on social media and I'm just like, let's be open, let's be vulnerable, let's just see what happens. I just want to be like completely authentic. This is not like the first time I've tried to seek the truth or my answers or God, Jesus, anything. I've been struggling this honestly since high school. Everything that is going on nowadays makes it even harder to know where to turn for sources on this stuff. I don't know. Anyone have any advice? Ideas? I got 151 responses. And do you know of those 151 responses, how many were negative? 0. But there were 2 things that really stood out in those comments. Number 1, oh my gosh, Melissa, that's exactly how I feel. Oh my gosh, I'm going through that same thing. Please let me know what you find out. Blah, blah, blah. There's other seekers like me. And the other one was, check out Kensington, check out Kensington, check out Kensington. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, I'm not kidding you, at least 35 comments were, go to Kensington. One of my friends actually goes to the Troy campus. Actually, she's like, Melissa, I'm telling you, message the lead pastor of the Troy campus, Danny Cox, and see if he'll meet with you. He's awesome. You know, you might be really encouraged by talking to him. So I emailed him. I explained basically my life story to him. And I was like, can we meet for a couple minutes?
When I first met her, Melissa, I was taken with her right away because that's my journey. I saw myself in her. I had so many questions about Christ.
It took him, he said, 3 years to find Christ in his 30s. So I think, my gosh, if Danny Cox, the lead pastor of a large church, if it took him 3 years to find Christ, then you know what? I can do it too. The first service I went to at Kensington was the summer of 2018, and they were doing a series called Kensington at the Movies.
Today we're going to continue on in this series by looking at Black Panther.
And the one I went to was on Black Panther. And Andrew Kim was preaching, and the message was amazing, and it totally hit home because he talked about the Mahatma Gandhi quote, I like your Christ, but I do not like your Christians.
Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. And when you hear that, it's like, ouch. That hurts, that cuts deep.
And I'm like, whoa. And the fact that Kensington recognized that, especially like on my first time there, it was really refreshing because I feel that a lot of churches just sweep that kind of stuff under the rug. Truthfully, the biggest issue I struggle with is Jesus really the Son of God? Another big question I have is there life after death? And it's really refreshing to know that here at Kensington, like, I'm not alone. Everybody doubts. Even like the Pope and Mother Teresa, they've had doubts. I didn't know that. That's crazy. Like, that makes me feel so good. So I've done a lot through Kensington. The first thing I did was I joined a course, Alpha. It just really made me open my eyes and think about things in ways I never had before. I went on a women's retreat through Kensington in the spring called Smash. I literally did all the workshops I could because I thought, you know what? I'm here by myself. I know no one. I'm here to learn.
All right, little girl, are you ready? And she's amazing. And just everybody I've come in contact with, not even the people who work here, just like the people that attend the service. I've met 1 million people here that have been amazing. Nancy Worm, she's sort of like a mentor to me, and she's amazing.
She said, I'm turning 35. I need to answer this question. I need to figure out my faith, not just for myself, but for my family now. And I don't want to wait any longer. This is the year I'm going to learn everything I need to make this decision. Having that mission has really spurred her on to take step after step after step to answer the questions that she has. She wants to land this.
My heart is open and exploding. I feel so happy. Do I still identify as a seeker? Yes. My brain needs to catch up with my heart. I'm still in the beginning stages, maybe on like mile 10 of my 100-mile walk or whatever. But it doesn't bother me. I think once you take that leap of faith, once you take that leap and you jump off and you start your journey, you don't really care when it ends. You hear churches a lot, or people on the news or on TV, they have a lot of these aha moments when coming to Christ. But what I've learned is most people that find Christ, it's not this big aha moment. It's these little tiny things over the years. And I feel like that's me. I look at where I am now and I look at where I was like a year and a half ago, and I'm night and day difference, and it's amazing. My brain, the walls are coming down more, but it hasn't quite collapsed yet like I'd like it to. Does this blog resonate with you? Are you seeking? Come take this journey with me. They say a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Take that first step. You will never regret the journey.
I remember that first meeting I had with Melissa. We met in the lobby and we sat down together, and she was so intense. She was searching for truth. We had a great conversation. I recommended one particular book. I think I actually even gave it to her, and she took it home and she wrote back. She's like, no, not this kind of book. I'm looking for this. So I gave her another one and she read through that, and it's been like that ever since. She is on a mission to find out who this person of Jesus is. And what I love about her, and I think it's true for all of us, we have questions and we have doubts about faith. Even myself, to this day, I still have questions and doubts, and I don't think God is up in heaven wringing his hands going, I don't know how to answer that question. I'm not sure what to do with that doubt. God knows. And what I love about our community is that we are creating a space where people can come in with their doubts, with their questions, and engage with Jesus and with his people. And so this year, I would invite you to make a year-end Christmas gift to Kensington. And as you do that, I want you to know something. You are investing in a space where people can bring all they have in their heart and present it to Jesus. And here's what I know about Jesus. After watching work for so long in our community, he will take our questions, he will take our doubts, he will draw us into himself, and he will transform lives.
I love Melissa's story, and I love her desire to know more. I love her honesty. But also, when I look at her story and I see her story, I'm also reminded that this is what we as a community here at Kensington is all about, to see everyone transformed and mobilized by Jesus. It's the heartbeat of this place. It's one of the reasons why I love our community so much. And so as we come to the end of the year, I too want to ask if we would consider giving a year-end gift to Kensington. Because when we do, it allows us as a community to continue to reach and impact the lives of people, not just here in the Detroit metro area, but truly all around the world. And for some of us, we got a glimpse of that yesterday. And I was at Harrington Elementary over in Pontiac, helping and just being a part of all those Thanksgiving baskets that were assembled. And across all of our campuses, it's estimated that we were able to impact the lives of almost 10,000 people in the state of Michigan. And when we give, that's where that giving goes. And not just here, but also in places like Nepal, in India, and Kenya, and South Sudan, and the Dominican Republic, and Brazil, and so many other places. We are able to communicate the love and the transformative power of Jesus. And so as we consider giving, something else that I also wanted to communicate is thank you. Because you truly are some of the most generous and open-handed people I've ever come across. And not just with finances, but also with your skills and with your time, which sometimes can be even more of a precious resource. And so thank you for choosing to live not like this, but like this, which in our culture today is a very, very difficult thing to do. And so as we all know, this Thursday is Thanksgiving. And how many of you are big fans of Thanksgiving? Anyone here? Okay, so many of us. And I love Thanksgiving too. Thanksgiving ranks right up there for me along with Canada Day, right? Anyone else? No one else. Okay, I could tell. And I probably love Thanksgiving probably for the same reasons that most of you do as well. Because of football, friends, food, and family, and not necessarily in that order. But Thanksgiving also marks the beginning of one of the craziest seasons of the year. Because it seems like Thanksgiving hits, we're off to the races, and before we know it, we're saying Happy New Year. Because there's all the stuff that has to be bought, all the shopping that needs to be done. And studies tell us that for many of us, we will buy more in the next few weeks than we'll have bought in the previous 11 months. And there's good reason for that, because there are all the incredible deals out there on Black Friday and afterwards. There's all the Christmas presents that we have to buy, and it's not just any presents. We have to buy the right presents for our children, for our spouse, aunts and uncles, cousins, for our parents, grandparents, for our coworkers, neighbors, the mail person, the garbage person. It seems like the list keeps on getting longer every single year. And with Christmas right around the corner, we also have to go and find that Christmas tree. And again, not just any tree, but the right one. And we gotta bring it home, we gotta set it up and decorate it. And for many of us, every year right around this time, we risk our lives by getting on our roof and having to put up Christmas lights. Am I not? Yeah, by laughing, I could tell that that is you. And then, of course, there's something that everyone loves, the awkward office Christmas party. And it's even more awkward when you gotta go to your spouse's office Christmas party and you find yourself in the corner every single year talking to the weird guy, right? And for some of us, what Christmas means the end of the fiscal year. And so what that means is that before we can even think about the holidays, there's this mountain of work that we have to get done. There are all these deadlines that we have to hit. And if things aren't stressful enough, they let the kids out of school. And then, of course, there's the family vacation to visit the in-laws, all the family that comes to town, and we all know that that's not stressful. And so what the funny thing is that as I was saying all this, I could see in some of your faces and your blood pressure rising and your stress level rising as well. And you're like sitting there like this now, right? Aren't you happy you came to church today? Exactly. Right? And so the question that I wanna ask all of us today is, how do we actually wanna move through the holidays this year? Do we wanna be stressed, anxious, exhausted, and find ourselves completely depleted come 2020? And I can't imagine anyone's like, yeah, sign me up for that life. But how all of us want to move through Christmas and Thanksgiving this year is, my guess is that we want to be able to breathe, is that we want to be able to experience more of the beauty and the wonder of this season. And if that is you, I want to remind us of a practice today. And it's a practice that could not only change the way that we experience the holidays, but truly can transform our lives moving forward if we continue to do this by connecting us in a greater way to the timeless, to the sacred, and the profound. And it's the practice of gratitude. And we see how powerful gratitude is in the Gospel of Luke, in the New Testament, in this interaction that Jesus had with 10 men. And this is what it says. This is what Luke writes. Now, on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. And as he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. And they stood at a distance and called out in a loud voice, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." And chances are none of us here have had leprosy. And that's a good thing because it's a terrible disease to contract. And it's one that modern medicine has largely eradicated. But back in Jesus' day, there was no cure. And people also believed that it was highly contagious. And what leprosy does to our bodies is it causes us to lose sensation in our nerve endings, which means that someone with leprosy can't feel anything. Their hand could be on fire and they wouldn't know it. And in advanced cases of it, people's fingers and toes also fall off. And so back in Jesus' day, the day that you found out that you had leprosy would have been the worst day of your life, because it meant that moving forward, you could no longer hug your children, no longer sleep next to your husband or your wife. You couldn't go to the temple anymore to connect with God. It meant that you would be pushed out of society and considered an outcast for the rest of your life. And this is what lepers had to endure. And so they had to endure not only the physical pain from the disease, but also the emotional pain of now being on the margins of society because people didn't want to have anything to do with them. And also the spiritual pain of not being able to go to the temple to connect with God. And that was the situation of these 10 men. And as they were outcasts, what ultimately happened is that they found each other and they created a community. And one day, they saw Jesus walking along a road. And they had heard about who Jesus was and the amazing things that he had done, how he had healed people of terrible diseases. And they saw him and they knew he was their only hope. And so they called out to him, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." It's sort of like if we were on a deserted island and we saw a plane flying towards us. We would do anything and everything we could to get the attention of that pilot, understanding that he or she was our only hope. And so this is what they did. And this was Jesus' response to them. When he saw them, he said, "Go show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, they were cleansed. And what we have to understand about the job of a priest back in Jesus' day was that their job wasn't only to lead the people in worship, but they also sort of functioned as a health inspector. And that when someone had a disease and then they thought they had been cured, they would first have to go to the priest, and the priest would examine them. And if everything was good, he would then give them a clean bill of health and allow them to rejoin society. And so Jesus was telling them, they still had leprosy, mind you, start walking towards the priest. And in doing so, this was a huge step of faith for them, because some scholars believe that this journey to the priest would have taken them about 2.5 to 3 days. And can you imagine if they showed up at the priest and they still had leprosy, how stupid they would have looked? And so along the way, they believed that Jesus would heal them, that something miraculous would happen. And so they went. And how I picture this happening in my mind is I can imagine them, they're walking along a road. And then suddenly, one of them felt a sensation in his hands that he hadn't felt in years. And then another of them looked down at his foot, and that toe that had been missing for years had suddenly grown back. And one of the guys looked at the guy walking beside him, and he suddenly recognized that his ear that had been missing had grown back. And then they started looking down at their skin, and they noticed that it was being renewed. And at some point along the journey, they saw and they knew that they were totally healed. And can you imagine how happy they must have been, how thrilled they must have been? Because what this meant that they had a second lease on life. It meant that now they could go home and they could hug their children. They could kiss their husband or their wife. They could go to family functions again. They could go to the temple and connect with God again. They could do the things that they had always wanted to do. Go out to their favorite restaurant, go bowling, whatever it was, they could do it again. And so I imagine when they realized that they were healed, they didn't just keep walking towards the priest. They started sprinting towards this guy. But in the midst of that, one of them said, the Samaritan, says one of them, when he saw he was healed, came back, praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. And he was a Samaritan. And the Samaritans, who they were, was that they were considered enemies of the Jews. They were considered half-breeds, second-class citizens. The Jews believed that they followed a knockoff religion. But this Samaritan, he's part of this community, and I can imagine as they're running, he says to these other guys, wait guys, I have to do something important. I need to go back and I need to say thank you to Jesus. And if I was one of the other 9, I would have said, hey, don't worry about it. Just send him a text. He'll understand. But he didn't. He went back. And when he found Jesus, as we just read, he collapsed at his feet. And he said, thank you. And I can imagine with tears streaming down his face. He said, thank you. Thank you, Jesus. You've connected me back to my family. You've connected me back to God. You've connected me back to my life. And Jesus' response to this man was, were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Where are your other 9 friends? Has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner? And it almost seems like there was surprise in Jesus' response, because he understood the amazing transformation that had happened in their lives. And he's saying, really, just you? But the thing was that this Samaritan man had done something incredible. And so what was different about what this man did? And it wasn't that he was grateful, because we have to understand that all 10 of them were grateful. There's this incredible thing that had happened in their life. They thought they would never, ever be able to see their family and their friends get back to the life that they had known. But they had. So it wasn't that he was grateful. What was different about the Samaritan man was that he chose to express his gratitude. Because gratitude that's just simply felt isn't worth a whole lot unless it moves us to express it in some manner. And we may think we get it, but for many of us, including myself, we don't. Because if we did, we would see it in our lives. As we move throughout our day, not only in the words that we speak, but also in the words that we write, we would be continually using those 2 magical words, thank you. And saying thank you, not only to the people around us, but also to God. Because this is what's so important about gratitude. Gratitude that's not expressed is not experienced. And what's worse is when someone does something incredibly kind for us and we don't respond with thank you or expressing our gratitude in some way. It can sometimes be, many times, be experienced by that other person as rejection or even entitlement. It can come across as, you know what, I don't have to say thank you to him or her. I deserve that. Did you say thank you to your mom? Why should I say thank you to her? She's my mom, she's supposed to do that. Did you say thank you to the guy on your team who's been working so hard this week, putting in all those hours? Why should I say thank you to him? He gets paid to do that. He's just lucky I hired him. He's just lucky I keep him on. It's not enough to feel it. We have to express it. Regardless of whether we feel comfortable expressing our emotions or not, regardless of whether we're an introvert or an extrovert, we have to figure out a way to get the gratitude that we're feeling in here out to the people who we're actually grateful for. It's so incredibly important that we do this. And I love what an author and pastor named Tim Keller once said. He said, it's one thing to be grateful. It's another thing to give thanks. Because gratitude is what you feel. Thanksgiving is what we do. And this past Wednesday, at the very end of our Troy staff meeting, before any of us left, we were asked to go up to three other people, and to express our appreciation and our gratitude for them. And I knew that it would be really uncomfortable for me because I am not really all that comfortable expressing or receiving emotion. So I knew this is gonna push me out of my comfort zone. And so the very first person I went to was Michael King, who is our music director. You see Michael up here on most weekends. And Michael is one of the most talented people I've ever met in my life. He has done some incredible things, traveled to all these places around the world. But yet he is also one of the most humble people I know. And so I went up to him and I said this to him. And the entire time, I couldn't look him in the eyes. I was looking at the wall behind him. And I know what you're thinking, like, you have problems, and I do. Probably need some professional help with that, but that's something completely different. And so I did this, and I also knew that other people in the room felt exactly the same as I did. But as we stepped out of our comfort zone and we expressed our gratitude towards one another, I felt something powerful not only happen in my heart, but I also felt something powerful happen in the room. That is, as we said thank you to one another, I felt like what happened was that we were reminded of the beauty that's present in one another, the image of God in one another. As we did this, our love and appreciation for one another increased. And as a team, as people, we were drawn together. Because when we have the courage to express our gratitude, beautiful things occur. And so is there someone in your life, is there someone in our lives who we take for granted? Or even as we look back on our weekend, as we look back on our week, is there someone who you're reminded of, oh yeah, they did that for me, and I never said thank you to them? What if today, what if tomorrow when we get into the office, what if we wrote them a note? And I'm not talking about text, but a handwritten note. What if we picked up the phone and gave them a call? Or even better yet, took a moment to sit down with them and to look them in the eyes. Not the wall behind them like me, but look them in the eyes and to express our gratitude. And my guess is that something beautiful would result. And this is what the Samaritan man did. And what Jesus does in the very last verse is that he pronounces something powerful over this man's life. But before we actually get to the last verse, I want to invite the ushers to come forward to receive our offering for today. And let me say that if you are a guest here with us today, we are so happy that you are here. It's a great day to be here, but please don't feel any obligation to give. But if you would like to give, the offering baskets are going to be coming around, and we also have several other options to give as well. You can give online, you can give via our app, you can also give by texting the word Kensington to 77977 as well. And if you're a guest here today, we'd love to meet you, love to connect with you. And if you have a moment after the service, you can do so by going out to the hub, which is out in the lobby, and you'll see the people out there with bright orange shirts on. And we'd love to answer any questions that you may have and tell you a little bit more about who we are as a community as well. And so in the very last verse, this is what Jesus said to this Samaritan man. Then Jesus said to him, "Rise and go. Your faith has made you well." And in this passage, there are two words that are contrasted, two words that are juxtaposed. And they're the Greek words that are translated cleansed that we read back in verse 14, and the word for made well that we just read in this verse. And just going back to verse 14, just to remind us of what Jesus said. He was talking to these 10 lepers, and he said to them, "Go show yourselves to the priest." And as they went, they were cleansed. And what Jesus is talking about here and how he's using that word cleansed is to be physically healed from a disease, which in this case was leprosy. But when this Samaritan man came back to Jesus and expressed his gratitude, Jesus said something powerful to him. He said, "You have been made well." And to be made well means to be made whole, to be made complete. And so what Jesus was saying to this guy is, because you have come back and because you have expressed gratitude, you have been healed at a deeper level. You've been healed not just physically, but you have been healed spiritually, because now his eyes were open to the full reality of who Jesus was. His heart was awakened to a deeper reality beyond this life. Because this is what expressing gratitude can do. This is the power of gratitude. It has the power to transform us, to change us, to make us more into the people who God has created us to be. Because this is the second truth that I want us to really take a hold of today. That gratitude or appreciation produces transformation. And you don't have to believe me on this. You don't even have to believe the Bible on this. Because there are so many studies out there that tell us the power of gratitude and how it has the ability to change us. And I read a ton of those studies this past week. And I read that it said that what gratitude can do is that it reduces feelings of anxiety and depression, reduces fatigue and inflammation, reducing the risk of heart failure. It decreases stress. It promotes generosity, self-esteem, compassion. The list goes on and on and on. And an interesting study that I also came across 2 weeks ago that I heard about was that it also said that when we practice gratitude for 5 minutes a day, and it could be writing in a gratitude journal, it could be going around and expressing gratitude to the people around us, it improves our long-term well-being and happiness by the same amount as if our salary was to be doubled. And so imagine that you go into work tomorrow and your boss says, "Why don't you come into my office?" And she says to you, "You have been doing such a good job. I'm just gonna double your salary." So say you make $50,000, now you make $100,000. I could imagine if that happened to you, if that happened to any of us, we would be incredibly happy. Our happiness would increase exponentially. And what this study said is that when we practice gratitude, 5 minutes a day, express it, that's what happens in our lives. And I can imagine for some of us, we're thinking, I'm never gonna get that raise, so that's exactly what I'm gonna do. And that would be a good idea. But this is the power of gratitude, because gratitude transforms us and allows us to be more of the people who God created us to be. And the reason I believe really is contained in this one definition of gratitude that I came across this past week, and it's from a pastor out of New York City named Rich Velotis, and this is what he said. This is how he defined gratitude. Gratitude is an understanding that we are the recipients of goodness and constantly coming back to the source of that goodness. Gratitude is recognizing that we have had incredible things placed in our lives, that we have received extraordinary goodness, and recognize it's not because of us, but rather looking back and recognizing and acknowledging the source of that goodness, which is God. Because what the scriptures tell us is that every good and perfect gift is from above. And so it's not just remembering, you know what, I have a really incredible life, but it's also looking back and acknowledging where it came from. And that's exactly what this Samaritan man did. And that he received healing, but it didn't just end there. He went back to the source of that healing, and he acknowledged and he worshiped Jesus. And it resulted in a deeper healing, more than one that was just simply skin deep. And that's exactly what's happening with the baptisms today. And that the people who are going to be entering into this tub later on recognize that they have received something extraordinary. And it's not because of them. This new life that you all have in Jesus, you know, and I know from reading your stories, that it's not because of you. And so today, what you're doing is that you are coming back to the source of that goodness and saying, thank you. Baptism, among other things, is an act of worship. And one of the people who is getting baptized today is a new friend of mine named Tessa. And so Tessa, if you want to come up, and Tessa has a powerful story, and she's agreed to share it with us today. So as she comes up, can we give her a hand, everyone? Awesome. Thanks, Sydney. Awesome. Thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have a great story, and you've experienced so much in your life. And as I mentioned earlier, and as we heard in the song earlier, one of the things that really struck me about your story was that you said that for so many years that you were searching for something, but yet you didn't know what it was or really where to find it. And so I'd love for you to share with us what that journey was like.
Yeah, so I was baptized when I was an infant, and I grew up in a Lutheran community, but I always kind of viewed God as more of a punishment, a very distant God, and something that would be something I would have to deal with if I did something wrong or if I was doing something bad.
Yeah.
So I strayed away from religion in general. Over the years, I realized there was this hole in my heart that I was trying to fill with whatever I could find. I tried filling it with alcohol just to numb the pain. I tried filling it with whatever person I could find that I thought would heal me or make me better, and it led me to being in an abusive relationship that I was in for about 2.5 years and resulted in assault to the degree where we had to involve the police, and it was a whole court system. So I was devastated. I thought, what kind of God would ever want me now? I'm never gonna be the perfect type of Christian that I need to be, and I just thought there was no going up from there.
And that was your situation. And then you came to midweek, and then you encountered God in a powerful way, and you made the decision to follow Jesus. And so I'd love for you to tell us how that happened, and tell us about that midweek, and also what your life has been like ever since you made that decision to say, you know what, I want to follow you, Jesus.
So I had this feeling, I just started dating my new boyfriend, now fiance, and I just had this feeling in my heart where I was like, I need to go to church. And I knew that he had been to Kensington. He's been here since he was a child. So he suggested going to midweek. He was like, it's a lot of singing, it's a lot of music, it's a very calming environment. And I was terrified to go in because I was like, I am so anxious. I am going to be judged if I go in. I don't want to go. And the very first midweek service I went to, they showed a film. And the first sentence the girl said was, I was anxious and afraid of being judged, and I found a home in Kensington. And it was just such a powerful moment. I was like, I was meant to be at this service right now. And it was a journey since that point, too. But I came to come more often to church. God put godly people in my life. He opened conversations with me and my mother to discuss things that have happened in my life. And he's led me to being the person I am today, so I'm very happy for that.
And so when we were talking about baptisms, and we've talked about it here and invited people, hey, we're gonna be baptizing people on this weekend. So you heard about it and you were like, I don't know, and you felt sort of the nudge. But something happened 2 weeks ago in this room on a Sunday that said, hey, you know what, I'm jumping in and it's my time. And so I would love for you to share that experience with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was at the last prayer of the service, and Danny Cox told us all to bow our heads, and I bowed my head and closed my eyes. And I could see with my eyes closed, God was wrapping his hands around mine as I was holding my hands to pray. And I could feel his hands around mine. I could feel this overwhelming joy to the point where I was almost brought to tears. It was just such an incredible sensation that I instantly went out to my car and I was like, I need to sign up for baptism. This is the moment that I need to do it.
That's awesome. So you're going to be baptized. So Tessa's going to be baptized at the noon service. All her family and friends are coming. But thank you so much for coming and being a part of this and sharing your story with us. Appreciate it. Thanks, Tessa. And so, as Tessa mentioned in her story, there were these nudges, and she just felt like, hey, you know what? That God was saying to her, this is your time to be baptized. And maybe for some of you, today is your day to get baptized, and that you braved the traffic out there on John R. and Square Lake, and you persevered, and you came, and you thought, you know what? I'm just gonna take in the service, and then I'm gonna battle the traffic again. But God may have a different plan for you today. And so if you feel that nudge, and you feel like God is saying, today is your day. Later on, after everyone is baptized, I'm gonna provide an opportunity for anyone else to come forward. And don't worry, we have t-shirts, we have towels for you. But if you feel like today is your day to get into that tub and to be baptized, we wanna invite you to take that courageous step and to come forward later on. But something else that I noticed in just talking to Tessa and also reading so many of the stories of the people who are getting baptized is that there's this incredible sense of gratitude for what people have experienced in their lives, which is what we've been talking about. And something else that we also have to recognize about baptism and is what is going to be happening is that what baptism is at the very core, it's an external visible symbol of an internal invisible reality. And that word symbol is so important because there's nothing magical that happens in the water. Because baptism doesn't make us a Jesus follower, but it's symbolic of the fact that we already are. It's publicly declaring that we have already made that decision. Because when someone is immersed in the water, it symbolizes the fact, it's symbolic of the fact that their old self, who they were before they met Jesus, has been buried in the ground. And when they come up from the water, it represents, it's symbolic of the fact of the new life that we have in Jesus. That's what baptism is. And that's why we celebrate, that's why we cheer, that is why it is so incredibly powerful. And so just like this Samaritan man who experienced this life change, not just a physical healing, but truly a spiritual healing, and experienced and expressed this gratitude, that is exactly what is happening today. There's so many parallels. And so what we're going to do right now is in a moment, I'm going to pray, and then we're going to take in a song. We're going to sing in a song that really tells us how God transforms our life and how he makes a new way for us. And then we are going to celebrate, and we're going to experience all of this life change that's happening. So would you join me in prayer? So God, we thank you. We thank you for your love for us. Thank you for the incredible things that you continually do in our life. And you are truly good. And that you have given us so much. And so we pray that this week, as we approach Thanksgiving, that for every single one of us, we would take a moment and we would reflect and remember your goodness to us. But at the same time, that it wouldn't end there, but that we would take it one step further and recognize the source of that goodness, which is you. And that this week we would come back to you and to say thank you. And also not only to you, but also to the people around us, that we would be people who just not simply feel gratitude, but truly express it as well. And we also want to thank you for the people who are going to be baptized today. Thank you for the incredible things that you have done in their lives. And for anyone else here, Lord, who is just feeling that nudge, we pray, Lord, that you would give them the courage today to take that step forward. And so we thank you that we can do this. Thank you that we can celebrate this. And we pray these things in your son's name. Amen.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Lord, we know you to be a way maker. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, a waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 'Cause you are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here. You're mending broken hearts. I worship you, Lord. I worship you. Come on, everybody, help us say, Waymaker, 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 miracle worker, promise keeper, the light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Come on and tell you, God, who He is. You are a waymaker. You're a miracle worker. You're a promise keeper. You're the light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Come on, one more time.
to show God. I want to show everyone that I love God by being baptized. It shows that I will follow God and love Him forever.
Hi, I'm Cheyenne, and before I found Christ, I was lost in life. I didn't really know what to do. I decided last year at camp I wanted to follow Christ, but I didn't decide to get baptized until this year at camp. Now that I am following Christ, I don't feel lost, and I know if I need help, He is there for me.
I grew up in a Lutheran church. I was baptized and completed my communion at that church. For the past 4 years, I have transitioned to Kensington Church. I've been volunteering and getting more involved. Kensington is my new home now, and I want to fully commit to Christ in my new place of worship. Last week's message was so powerful about mental health. That's when I felt God wrap His arms around me, and I knew I was ready to be all in. As a future social worker, I want to be able to take my faith and continue the conversation about mental health.
Hopeless, not good enough, worthless, that's how I felt. Wanting to stop the pain, I attempted to end it all. But God had other plans for me. He put people around me to show me I was not alone. Even though I had a cold, dead soul, He put people in my path to shatter my wall and show me love. I realized that as hard as I try to do life alone and by myself, I can't. I am strong and smart, but it's not on my will. No matter how hard I tried, God kept chasing me. Even when I was running, God never stopped. And suddenly I noticed my life changing, and with no logical explanation. And so for the first time in my life, I got a Bible, but I waited 2 weeks before touching it. I flipped to the pages and landed on Romans 12:2. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. Then it began, a transformation that has gone on over a year. I heard Jesus tell me I only need a mustard seed. So I started the journey with just a mustard seed. Trying hard to use logic, I allowed God to unharden my heart, and I felt wanted and seen again. God decided that since I'm wired to question and prove everything, He presented Hebrews 11:1 to me. Faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things we cannot see. But as I reflect, I do see, and I feel like I am protected and am wanted and loved. Jesus held out His hand, and I willingly take it.
I decided to get baptized last week because I related to the mental health service last week, and for so many years I felt alone, and I didn't think that God was there, but He always was, and I just didn't realize it. And so that's why I'm here. I want to become more in first with God, yes.
And so this is Carter. He is 8 years old. And so he is the first today. He's shivering. It's a little bit cold in here. But he is the first one. Carter, I'm so proud of you, buddy. And it is an amazing day. And thank you, all of you, for sharing your story. And as we're baptizing, we're also going to be hearing a song and taking in a song called Great Are You, Lord. It's the perfect song because today we are truly celebrating not only each of these lives, but also how great God is and how much He loves us. And so as we take this in, let's take this also, let's move into this song as well. So, you ready for this, Carter? Awesome, buddy. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions. And the first question is, have you made a decision to follow Jesus as your Lord and Savior?
Yes.
Yes. And do you commit to following Him for the rest of your life? Yes. Awesome, good stuff. So if you want to plug your nose, you can. Dude, if you want to cross your arms right here, your dad will take it. And so Carter, in light of your confession, we want to baptize you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. You ready, buddy? Yeah. All right, let's do this. Congratulations. Oh, I'm so proud of you, buddy.
You are love, you bring light to the darkness. You give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord.
You commit to following Him for the rest of your life.
It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath
one of my favorite things that we do here at Kensington. And so I want to invite anyone else, if you feel that nudge right now and you feel like today is your day and you're supposed to be in here, I want to invite you. We're going to sing one more song. And during that song, I want to invite you to come forward. And if you come to the left, to your right, my left, right over here, we have people who will receive you and who will walk you through that process. And so let's sing one more song.
Sing all the earth. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. Sing all the earth. All the earth will shout your praises. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. Sing all the earth. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath, yes it is, in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you. Oh, we sing great are you, Lord. You're great in all the earth. We sing great are you, Lord. One more time, sing great are you, Lord.
we have a couple people who are coming up and a couple more people who are getting baptized. And if that is you, there's still time for you to come. But at the same time, we recognize that if you need to go and pick up your children, and if you need to go for any other reason, we want to be able to dismiss you as well. But if you can stick around, please do so, because it's an amazing, amazing opportunity for us to be able to celebrate together as a community. And so if you need to go, we would definitely want to release you. And so thanks for being here, everyone. Hey, I want to introduce all of you to Marsha, and Marsha is one of our incredible K-Kids volunteers, and she actually, what she does is that she takes care of my youngest, Mia, and she was just sharing her story with me, and she said, and I asked her, do you want to share it? And she said, no, I don't want to share it, but then I asked her, can I share it? And she said, oh yeah, of course. But she is somebody who loves Carter, and the 8-year-old boy who I first baptized at the very beginning of this service, and this is Carter's grandmother, and she just felt the nudge today. And she said, she looked at Carter and she said, you know what, if Carter can get baptized and have the courage to do so, I can as well. And so that spoke so powerfully to me. The courage and the bravery of an 8-year-old to say, you know what, today is my day. And I know that Jesus is my Lord and Savior, and I want to follow him for the rest of my life. And so I'm going to do it as an 8-year-old, and it inspired Marsha to come forward and to do it. And it's incredible. No, it's okay. It's okay. You're like 20, right? And so something like that. And so we're forever young. And so it's amazing. And so, Marsha, I want to ask you 2 questions. Have you made a decision to follow Jesus as your Lord and Savior?
Yes.
You have. And do you commit to following him for the rest of your life?
I do.
Awesome. And so in light of your confession, if you want to just cross your arms, in light of your confession, I want to baptize you. We want to baptize you in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Thanks for being here, everyone. We want to invite you all back to come to midweek this coming Wednesday. It's going to be fantastic. But have a great rest of your weekend, everyone.